Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Social Enterprise Summit 2024 Community Story. We're honored to have Mr. Nelson Yip of Yip Venture Company Limited to lead us on the path to his achievement through his remarkable journey in entrepreneurship, encapsulating triumph over adversity. Without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Nelson Yip on stage. Welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My privilege to be invited by Social Enterprise Summit to be one of the speakers today. And I'm going to share a little bit about my personal story. And I will put it a title, A Journey of Curiosity, which is about, social innovation today, which is a big topic. And the organizer would like me to speak a little bit about the barrier-free. I think today the organizer do a lot of work, to improve the barrier-free today. So give a big hand, to the organization, because they do so much work to help, those with mobility, disability people to manage to stay on stage. I think that's very, very important for those opportunity. Today, I'm going to share a little bit about my story, and what's the story? I'm going to, skip some of my introduction. I was born in Hong Kong all my life. Education in Hong Kong, nurturing in Hong Kong. So I spent all my life in Hong Kong. And I would like to start from that, okay? Because today we're going to have a lot of, sharing. And this slide I used to, use, to start as a introduction. Why? Because all of us would like to, to see something, right? We use the eye to see, and sometimes we use the mind to see, and sometimes we use the heart to see. But in English, okay, when you ask you a question and you say, I see, okay, you understand what I'm going to say. And I will use it as a visualize, okay? What do you think, okay, not just today, but about something which is not now, but in future, okay? Can you see what is the future? Can you see the change in the future? And then I think you need to, not just use your eyes, but you have to use your mind, but try to combine, two things, your mind and your heart together. And then keep a cool mind, at the same time, have a warm heart and try to connect together. And that will make a big impact. Wow, okay, that's me, okay. Back to quite young, okay. The young lady was my carer. By that time, I was primary 3. And then I was studying in a special school. Okay, I know some of the students, not students, some of the principal and teacher today, they are actually in special school education. And I was lucky enough, to be educated in Red Cross, which is a special school. And then, that I was in the previous classes because I just have 6 classmates with me inclusive. So what's the privileges? Just imagine when you study in primary school, okay, how many classmates you have? 25, 40, 50. And then I just have 6, okay, which is a quality education. But after 3 years, okay, after I graduated from the business school and I go into mainstream, 2 or 3 of my classmates actually passed away because of the bad physical condition. And then that life is very, very short. And then you have to, try to do something, okay? When you're young and if you have a dream, why don't you just, make it happen? Turn your dream into a reality. I think that's very, very important. So by that time, I think, what do you want to do, Nelson? Okay, I think I would like to study. Okay, I would like to go to university, have a, blue sky, and then, big campus. So I keep that dream, okay, when I was a kid, a primary 3 student. And then, okay, I was lucky enough to go to University of CUHK, which is many years ago, decades ago. And I think that is one of the story. And then by the time, only 3% of the secondary school students have a chance to go to university. It's not easy. And you know that university, by that time, are not that accessible. So you have to manage a lot of kind of, the staircase, library, a lot of that kind of, So I think the story is very interesting. And then you see the problem, you see obstacle, and then you try to, why can you do something? Can you do something to manage or try to communicate with the senior management of the university? Can they do something, to help those students who in need, so they can study well? I think that's very decent idea, okay? So we do a lot of that kind of things when we are studying in university. So after working a few years, go to a city university for a master's degree, and then, back to, CHK for an MBA program. I think, of course, I have to work full-time. My first job actually working for faculty of medicine, doing epidemiological research, which is under public health. And then after that, go to the University of Hong Kong. I think all those journeys give me a very opportunity to communicate. Okay, not just educator, but at the same time, all those my colleagues, my classmates, so they can understand more. Okay, what's the challenge of people who are suffering from mobility disability, and then. Back to this, the art pieces. Okay, people know me well because of horse, because of equestrian, and people ask me why and how come you have a chance to get on the horseback. I think it's because I like to do social work in year 2000, and then by the time I was the founder and also one of the director of Hong Kong Rehabilitation Power, which is an NGO. The NGO is still doing a lot of work for those people with mobility disability. And then why I think the art piece helped me a lot. The art piece basically is a balance, okay? A lot of us are imbalanced. What do you mean imbalance? Rational mind at the same time, okay, some emotion. And then can we do something, to make it balanced? And then when I'm thinking about that, I think sport is very good. And I received a invitation when I sit on the deck, okay, on the chair, and taking care of all those incoming mail. And then one of the invitations was sent by a NGO, which is an international one, called Riding for Disabled Association, which is to support students or the kid to do therapeutic riding, which is not just riding, but therapeutic. I heard that some of the principal somewhere, okay, they say that nowadays, okay, a lot of students suffering from autism. And then I think therapeutic riding is one of the, very good solution to help those students to get back to society. I will share with you later if I got a chance to share that story. And then that art piece gave me inspiration. At the same time, I think I also got an invitation from RTI. Why don't we, just, organize a team to go for a therapeutic riding back to 20 years ago? And then, very interesting, okay, I bring a team of 5, and then I was 6, okay, sit on the front, okay, Timothy, you're one of the member. Why don't you just go on the horseback? And then Timothy turned the head to Rebecca. Rebecca second one. Okay, Nelson, you're the one to bring me here. Okay, why don't you just go the first one to go on the horseback? That's what happened. And then that's taking the first ring, back to 20 years ago. And then wow, quite bulky. And then one lady helped me to get on the horse, and another one afraid I would fell off from the other side, and then another one hold on the horse just in case he or she went away. So that's very interesting picture. And then this is how I start. And competition was not the first I think that would take me another 5 minutes to share this story. I think I would better skip it. But this is a journey, okay, very important journey for me to try to, compete in the international. And then there's another story. And then I better skip. Okay, now, okay, back to Beijing 2008. Okay, the equestrian was held in Hong Kong. I think some of you know, just in case you're not too young. And then there's my boy, much better than me, okay, the horse, my boy, okay, called Icyback now has been, retired, in Australia. I still have to work here and have to talk. So I think that's a very interesting story. And then what give me, okay, in the Olympic, I think I got 3 words, okay. One is about transcendence. Okay, what do you mean transcendence? Which is today, I think I'm better than yesterday, and tomorrow, I think 100% will be better than today, because I got a chance to speak here and know some of you, and then make a good friends with all of you. I think that is very gorgeous and brilliant, and this is what I think transcendence. The second one is about equality. Basically, no one is equal, but we try to talk about equitable. Okay, we'll talk about how to, nowadays we have another word, DEI, okay, diversity and inclusion, and try to make it, okay, even though we know that people with differently able, okay, in one way or the others, I think, I still believe that. And then that is what I call equality. And the important is how to unleash your personal potential. This is, I think, the most important. You have to find your own pieces and try to, magnify your pieces, and that will be your story. That is very important. The last one will be the integration. Nowadays, okay, we probably have 2 or 3 or 400 participants here, and then I think we need to work together. That's very important. And our chairman of CIF, okay, CF has been there. He keep talking, social capital. I think what social capital is about complement, to work with each other, to try to do something, not just by your own, but you have to work together to make a difference all together. Is it? I think I'm not the best one to interpret that. I'll leave it to CF to talk about that later. And then I think I got these 3 words from Olympic. And then I think education is very important, because with education we can try to do more narrative, to think more about the word, and then try to transform the word to something actionable. Back to 2009, actually, I'm working my own company, okay, back to many years ago. I'm not a horse rider, from horse rider to a businessman. So from the very beginning, after working with 2 universities, I started my own business, and then I got a chance to work for NGO, and then I think, which is good, for people with challenge to do sport. And then with that idea in mind, after Olympic, and then why don't we do something to do a inclusive sport? By that time, I don't think we seldom heard about what is inclusive sport. And I read a video, on YouTube. YouTube is good, which is about father and son. Okay, I think, well, we're so inspiring. Okay, how come we don't have that kind of inclusive sport in Hong Kong? And which is the first triathlon. Okay, back to 2008. Okay, 2009. Okay, and then we successfully run an inclusive triathlon at Science Park at Satin. We have around 1,000 people over there, and then we have successfully, to make a donation back to my mother's school, Red Cross. Okay, so I think I have to do something good, for my mother's school after so many years. So some nice photo, and then what do you mean inclusive? Okay, There's some kid, okay, they sit on a wheelchair, even though they don't swim, okay, they can sit on their wheelchair or do the riding, and then some of them run, some of them actually swimming. So I think that's a lovely picture. And then one of my metaphors actually is the blue sky. When I feel nervous, I think that's very important. A big space. 藍天白雲 big sky, and then right card. Okay, so I think that's give me a new perspective to see something very in a new way. I think that's how I train myself. Okay, to do something which is a challenge. And then today we're talking about social enterprise, right? And what's the connection between my story and social integration and social enterprise? I think we are talking about something very important inside, which is the inequality, the personal trait, and also when you see a problem, how can you manage that problem? Do you have that kind of energy to over them, and also have that kind of resilience to get over and move on? You know what I mean? And then I think that's exactly the quality when you're working with entrepreneur. Today I come across a lot of the startup, and then I was lucky enough to be in this industry back to 2005, and then all of those entrepreneurs I come across, I help groom and to make them a success. I think all of them make a big contribution, to society, not just the dollar side, but on the social impact. They good. But what sort of quality you have to, if you're young, if you're still in the university, or you would like to do something new, okay, even though you're in mid-age, okay, what do you have to acquire, in terms of quality? I think from this great guy, okay, I think you can learn a lot from him. What's that? Okay, if you talk about the incubation, I think it's all spectrum from non-profit to profit, which is, I think, the same quality. But just, okay, your heart, if your heart's more close to your business, okay, you just go for the fintech or what sort of, technology startup. If you're more close to, people, okay, you just go for another NGO, okay, something like that. So I think social innovation and social enterprise is just keep cut between, and then you have to have your business model and make it sustainable. At the same time, how do you know that the business model you work? You have to keep always better. You have to keep trying and make it, your business survive. I think that's the most important. And then sometimes I have to talk at school, not just limited to university, but also secondary school. I use this slide to share with them, okay, what do you mean, Nelson? Okay, I will say, okay, what color is the parachute? Have you ever tried parachute? How many of you try parachute? Okay, some of you. Okay, good. Okay, so suppose, okay, you're now, okay, you're ready to jump. Okay, you're ready to jump. Now you are at 10,000, not 10,000, okay, meter height, and you're going to jump. Okay, so when you open your parachute? Okay, now let's give it a try. Okay, 10,000, 9,000. If you're ready to open your parachute, you can raise your hand. Okay, 8,000, 7,000, 7,000, 6,000, 5,000. Whoa, so brave. 4,000, 3,000. Wow. Okay, 2,000. Okay. Wow, you're nearly there. Okay. I think you can go to the website and see. Okay. I think there's no perfect answer, but you have to make sure you have the skill to make it survive. I think it quite depends on how sophisticated you manage the skill about the parachute. I think for the beginner is about 6,000. So Nelson, what do you want to say, okay, through this slide? I mean, you have to open it. How many of you have not yet opened it, even though you're reaching the ground? Okay, that's the very important question. Okay, if you not open your parachute, not just you'll die, but you have to know your color of the parachute. You have to open it. You have no idea of the color of the parachute until you open it. How do you open? Just open it, okay? So that's very important. So many of us, okay, many of our mentee, they have an idea, you know, to set up an enterprise, social enterprise or social innovation. They got idea, okay, but they keep saying about that. They never think that, okay, they will happen after 10 years or 20 years. So I asked them, okay, why don't you just keep saying the same idea and without setting up a new social enterprise? I think that is the execution and, you know, thank you. So, I have to cut it short. And then the quality is about resilience. And that kind of quality can be learned, can be taught, can be educated. So that's, I think, one of the qualities you have to, you know, if you're a teacher, you're a principal. So try to, you know, if you would like to have that kind of curriculum in school, I think that's one of them, okay. And that is also important for those kids to grow, okay, in a healthy way. And, okay, resilient. Okay, resilient is a person's journey. I think this is not a strict line, but you, from time to time, okay, there's a lot of training opportunity, okay, from different occasions. That's one of the project I would like to share with you, okay. And today I heard so many social entrepreneurs today, and I think what's the pain point? The pain point, I think, if you have a very good vision, okay, it's all here, okay, just can you see the problem, okay? When you see a problem, that's a solution, you know what I mean, okay? And the problem is up, you can see it when you go home, and you can see the problem in the community. I think, yeah, I think CF 100% agree on that. Because when you go home, okay, you can see a lot of that kind of similar problem, but just you try to ignore it, or you know, you face that kind of challenge. You write, you know, something which is maybe close to your heart, and you want to find a solution to tackle that issue. So it quite depends on from individual to individual. And I would like to use the word community shaper. Okay, why I like to work with, you know, youngster, my mentee and student in university, and also secondary school student, the high caliber one. I think they are shaper. Okay, why shape? Because they're the future of our society. They got the energy, and they got the idea, they got the technology, and what they need actually is nothing more than a good mentoring. Nothing more than that, okay? So they need some, you know, guidance to give them some opportunity. And just 2 days ago, after dinner, okay, sitting next to me was two secondary school, high school, Form 4 students, high caliber, very, you know, smart, intelligent. I asked, okay, as a Rotarian, you know, I asked him or her, and her, what's the thing we can do for you, okay? And the girl and the boy, what they say, okay, they say, okay, opportunity for them to lead. Okay, wow, okay, that's easy. How much you need? Okay, $3,000. Or just like, not easy, not difficult. Just go ahead. Okay, we can do that. So I think that's the opportunity we can provide for the youngster. That's one of the program. So community shaper is one of the angle related to shape the community. If you see the problem, when the youngsters see the problem, we will support them. Okay, using technology as an enabler. Using technology as an enabler to solve issue. So I would like to use some innovative way to solve the problem. I think that's the thing we have been working for long. So I think the time's up. So just one very, you know, just highlight one, okay, how to use the mind to create success. I think all of us, you know, get the intelligence, and we are so educated, but how to use the mind in a way to create success is something to create upward spinal, to help people to see the new perspective and to help them not just see the downside, but to see something new, okay, because we have so many innovative things and technology on hand nowadays, and then why just use some technology and then make use of that to change the society? I think that's very what we need to do in the near future. Thanks so much. Okay.
Thank you, Nelson, for your inspiring sharing. We are inspired by your example of how to develop resilience along our personal journey. Now, let's start with our keynote speeches on how social entrepreneurship brings about a better world with less poverty, more equity, enhanced well-being, and sense of hope for all. I'm honored to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Francois Bonacci, Director of SWAP Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship and Head of Foundation of the World Economic Forum, to deliver a keynote speech in video. Let's welcome Dr. Bonacci.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Social Enterprise Summit 2024 International Symposium. My name is Francois Bonacci. I am Head of Foundations here at the World Economic Forum and Director of the Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship. I wish I could be with you today in person to listen to the many incredible social entrepreneurs from Asia Pacific and to recognize the growing ecosystem for social innovation in the region. And of course, to celebrate how far we have come in these past 2 or 3 decades. For more than 25 years, the Schwab Foundation has recognized and awarded the most outstanding examples of social innovation across the world. We started with a small group of social entrepreneurs, many of them actually from Asia. Among the first to join our community were, of course, Professor Muhammad Yunus, the founder of Grameen Bank and the current head of state in Bangladesh, Mirai Chatterjee, the founder of the Sewa Cooperative Federation, Faisal Hassan Abed, the founder of BRAC, which today features more than 100,000 employees, one of the largest social enterprises in the world. But today, we award social innovators like Xia Li, the founder of Shenzhen Power Solutions. She and her team provide solar-powered lighting to almost 50 million people around the world. Or Domingo Piz Nampichai, the president of the Amazon Sacred Headwaters Alliance in Ecuador and Peru. Together with a coalition of 20 indigenous nations in Ecuador and Peru, this network protects biodiversity across 35 million hectares of tropical rainforest, an area larger than Vietnam. Going back all those years ago, when our co-founders, Professor Klaus Schwab and Hilda Schwab, started the foundation, they saw this incredible potential, like you do, of social entrepreneurs at a time when there was little global recognition. They understood that social entrepreneurs represent a living example, a demonstrable example of the stakeholder economy that Professor Schwab had been promoting for 50 years through the World Economic Forum. These innovators are courageous leaders who develop new solutions to some of our most pressing challenges. They do it also while providing agency and dignity to the communities they serve. And through that, they help us see a pathway to a fairer and more inclusive, sustainable economy. 25 years ago, social entrepreneurship was a barely known concept. It certainly was not recognized by business and political leaders. But earlier this year, we decided to take stock of what has been achieved, and through our publication, The State of Social Enterprise, we compiled global data on social enterprises from more than 80 countries in the world, with leading social enterprise network and research organizations as our partners. We found that today, that there are as many as 10 million social enterprises in the world. Together, they earn 2 trillion in annual revenues, far more than the fashion industry. They create 200 million jobs. That's 6% of the global job market. And half of them, about 50%, are led by women, compared to about only 20% amongst conventional businesses. So while this data isn't perfect, it shows that the field and sector of social entrepreneurship has become an economic force on top of the impact force that they have always been. So it shows the work of social entrepreneurs and the work of ecosystem actors. Your work continues to create a real movement in the global economy. and our society. This movement is more important now than it has ever been, as our national and global economies are transitioning through a green and digital economic transition. We are creating new opportunities, but we're at the risk of leaving people behind. Growing geopolitical tensions drive more and more polarization in our society, and armed conflicts leading to death and despair and grave injustices are at the core of many of the issues of growing inequality and the lack of representation of large parts of our society. So beyond the economic and impact contribution, social entrepreneurs also stand in for the communities they serve, bringing hope to millions of people. They show that a different model of doing business or doing development is in fact possible. One example of Aniket Dugar, the co-founder and CEO of Hakdarshak, ensures that citizens at the last mile get access to government and private welfare schemes and services through a digital platform used by community women entrepreneurs. Research has shown that only 40% of citizens in India can actually access social welfare or small business support or grants or loan that they're eligible for. So social entrepreneurs create the glue between systems in society and the access for those who are often excluded. So part of the reason why the idea of social entrepreneurship is growing is due to a maturing and stronger ecosystem. Today, social entrepreneurs are supported more and more by accelerators, incubators, impact investors, academics, public sector and government agencies, and businesses. Many of you probably represent some of these groups in the room, and you're all coming together to scale social innovation in different ways. During the COVID crisis, this ecosystem came together more closely to support social entrepreneurs in a more coordinated way in a time of need. And this was the start of our efforts at the Schwab Foundation to support and grow the ecosystem at large and engage the private and public sector in support of social innovation, to encourage policymakers to create policies that support social entrepreneurship at large. And momentum in the public sector has been building for several years. We have seen the adoption of a 10-year strategy for the social and solidarity economy by the African Union. The European Commission has prioritized its action plan for the social economy. The OECD has issued a recommendation on this, and the ILO has passed a similar resolution on the social and solidarity economy. And last year in 2023, the UN General Assembly passed its resolution in support of the social and solidarity economy. And we know that ASEAN are looking at this on the agenda. Of course, Hong Kong has supported the social economy through its own initiatives like the Social Innovation Entrepreneurship Development Fund for decades. Many of these developments are captured in our report called Unlocking the Social Economy. Going forward, it'll be important to continue this momentum and ensure that social enterprises are recognized by the public sector. As governments around the world are grappling with an equitable transition to green and digital economies, social entrepreneurs will play a more important role. And for that, they need strong regulatory frameworks, recognition through legal forms or statutes, access to public procurement, registries that support data-driven policymaking, and funding incentives and opportunities. That's why we are engaging with the G20, and this year's G20 presidency is in Brazil, which is the reason why I cannot be with you today. A coalition of social innovators and ecosystem actors called the G20 for Impact Coalition in Brazil has pushed for the establishment of a standing work stream at the G20 for social innovation and a set of recommendations in this year's finance track. Next week, they will also meet with their peers in Johannesburg, where social innovators are coming together with ministers, business, and the ecosystem to jointly shape the next G20 presidency led by South Africa in 2025. A lot of this momentum is due to the incredibly driven individuals inside the public sector who truly want to make a difference. We started recognizing these champions, these government champions and public sector champions, for their outstanding work through a new award we introduced in 2019 called the Public Social Innovator. Yvonne Aki-Sawyer, for example, is the current mayor of Freetown in Sierra Leone. Her Transform Freetown plan encourages community-based innovations to strengthen health, provide economic opportunities, and improve mobilities. And it shows how important it is to leverage social innovation for community-driven urban development. Through this award, we also recognize Jonathan Wong, Chief of Innovation and Enterprise and Investment at UNESCAP, the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. Jonathan has spearheaded social innovation and social enterprise in public policy with numerous governments across the Asia-Pacific region. He was formerly headed innovation at DFID for the UK government and led the establishment of several high-profile innovation initiatives, including the Global Innovation Fund. We need these champions in the public sector to help transform and continue the momentum in our movement. In parallel to this public sector attention, the private sector is also recognizing the power of social innovation. A few weeks ago, we announced new signatories of our Rise Ahead pledge, including the first company from China. This pledge was launched earlier this year, and we already have 24 companies who have committed themselves to increase investments into social innovation. They are reporting their investments for the first time next year. These companies have recognized that social innovation and social enterprise is no longer an issue for CSR or corporate philanthropy alone. It's becoming a core business capability that helps companies to develop business models to address issues at scale. Earlier this year, we released a report called the Corporate Social Innovation Compass, which was developed with over 120 ecosystem organizations and our partners, Deloitte. It highlights 11 different ways for companies to partner with social innovators and social enterprises, such as buying from social entrepreneurs, jointly developing new impactful products, investing into innovators and enterprises through their ventures, or supporting the ecosystem. Most importantly, it showcases how companies are integrating social innovation into their core business. This is a crucial development for the evolution of our mainstream economy. And data from the British Council tells us that corporate customers are the second most important source of revenue for social entrepreneurs in Hong Kong. So similarly to the public sector award, the Social Trust Foundation also began recognizing social innovators in the private sector. Our Corporate Social Innovation Award promotes leaders like Garance Waters-Richard at AXA. Garance and her team have developed affordable insurances for over 14 million customers in low and middle income countries. Products including healthcare, household or agriculture insurance for premiums as little as $5 per year. They are taking up the models and approaches of social entrepreneurs and making their companies more purposeful through inclusive business models. We also highlighted Sam McCracken through our awards, the general manager of Nike N7 and visionary of the N7 programs, which developed over 25 unique product collaborations between Nike and indigenous communities across the US, and creating the N7 Fund, which generated more than $8 million to go to over 250 indigenous communities and organizations across the United States, reaching more than 500,000 youth. And of course, Saugata Banerjee, Global Head of Sustainable Programming at EssilorLuxottica, a global leader in the eye care and eyewear industry. They championed innovations in affordable eye care as part of the company's ambition to help eliminate uncorrected poor vision around the world within a generation. They pioneered the Eye Mitra program, which trains young people to become primary vision care micro-entrepreneurs in India. And we know that correcting vision can have really important economic and health benefits. So the role of companies in partnering and taking on social innovations is increasingly critical to mainstreaming the work of social innovation. And while we're making great progress with the impacts of social enterprise models and social innovation, we're also seeing the challenges of climate change play out in many of the communities they work with. We know that coastal communities and cities alike are impacted the most. Social issues in urban centers like Hong Kong are prone to be exacerbated in the next coming years. We need to keep demonstrating that social entrepreneurs don't only solve isolated problems, but also should be part of systemic solutions that governments and institutions are designing. The Katinga Mentaya project, based in Indonesia, was founded with the idea of using carbon financing to preserve and restore peatland ecosystems in central Kalimantan. It's the world's largest nature-based solution project in terms of carbon emission reduction, producing more than 7 million tons of carbon credits. This interplay between entrepreneurs, private sector actors, and policymakers will be crucial for the social economy to thrive and for us to tackle these more systemic issues like climate change. So the social enterprise sector has already grown into a significant economic and societal actor. And going forward, the role of the social economy will become even more important as it can play a key role in driving inclusion and driving an equitable transition in these green and economic digital transitions we're going through. A report by the International Monetary Fund highlights that the probability of switching from a brown fossil fueled focused job to a green job is incredibly low, between 4 to 6%. And at the same time, social entrepreneurs have supported workforce integration for years and decades. So their efforts are increasing chances for people to participate and benefit from these really important transitions. And this is just one dimension of economic equity that we're looking at. Others include affordability, access of goods and services, access to financing investment, access to knowledge and resources. Many, if not all of these dimensions have been addressed by social enterprises and social innovators for decades. So as we face these transitions, we're increasingly needing to learn from these few decades of models from social enterprises. Entrepreneurs like Shali are developing affordable access to renewable energy, and corporate innovators like Garance are offering access to essential services such as insurance. Organizations like Grameen and BRAC offer access to financing for people to lift themselves out of poverty. So similarly, the transition to the digital economy also holds lots of promise, but also holds the risk of leaving people behind. This year, we partnered with 50 leading social innovators from our community, rallied the support of Microsoft and EY to examine how new technologies, specifically AI, play a role in scaling impact. Our study of over 300 social innovators revealed that AI is mostly leveraged for applications in healthcare, environment, and economic empowerment. These three areas make up 2/3 of all AI applications for social impact. Through this research, we've developed a framework to be able to support a practical tool to helping social innovators deploy AI according to their level of readiness. It's called the PRISM framework, and we find that many innovators who start to tinker with a strategy that allows them to use AI for low-risk processes in their operations can be helped by thinking through this framework. At the other end of the spectrum, we have innovators like Geeky in Brazil that were AI-first technology organizations. And Geeky's education solution helped teachers and families and students to improve education outcome and leverage rich data to identify positive interventions. But independently of where you or social enterprises are in their readiness for these kinds of technologies, capacity building and access to affordable technology remains an issue. Our latest report reveals that over $2 billion has been deployed in the support of the adoption of AI for impact. While this may seem a lot, $2 billion, it represents less than 1% of global investments in artificial intelligence. It's a clear call for action for companies and public sector to step up the direction of their investments. In the coming months, we hope to connect with technology leaders and social innovators to positively shape the technology roadmap for impact. To conclude, it's clear we've come a long way in the social enterprise sector, from trying to explain what this emerging form of enterprise is, to then focusing on understanding the different business models, to then focusing on the scale and impact of them. We're now seeing this as a broader sector that has grown and to become an important force in the world and in the economy as a key driver of sustainability and inclusion, and as a real partner to business and government. This all brings me great hope, and I hope that over the next few days at the Social Enterprise Summit in Hong Kong, you will work collectively to continue to build on our global agenda together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bonashi, for your insightful sharing. Next, let's welcome Mr. Charlotte Frederick Sao, Chairman of Sao Pao Chi, Singapore, and Chairman of the Association for Wellbeing Economy, to deliver a keynote speech on the stage. Let's give a big hand to Mr. Sao.
Hello, yeah. Before I came up here, I was asking our team what was the topic, and they say something like how the power of business will facilitate social entrepreneurship. I think that was the topic. And I thought, actually should be reversed. How does social entrepreneurship facilitate the power of business to move in the era to become social enterprise. Because that's what business need. This is the new era demand. Now let's examine what is a concept of social entrepreneurship that evolved. In the old days, it was dealing with needs that are underserved or not served. So you have these people that identify they're underserved and they try to serve it. Now, if we look at us as a human, there are two basic things. Number one, we are social animal. That's our nature. Number two, we are the most creative animal. And these two nature, in the economic world that we live in, become social entrepreneurship. So we have to believe that it is inside us that we have it, and that we have the confidence to transform ourselves to be what our nature should be. Now today, there's a wake-up call. It's called sustainability. There's a wake-up call. It's called globalization. There's a wake-up call because it's called technological high-speed advancement. Now, most people look at these as challenge, and indeed, it's challenge. But it is this exactly challenge that motivate us to evolve, because in evolutionary theory, challenge is needed for evolution. So I know we are ready to upgrade. If you look at sustainability, that's a common challenge. These three challenges common. All of us around the world has that challenge. And deep inside us, we have a commonality of just want to be well and happy. Now, this is being advocated by United Nations by saying that all the sustainability challenge is because we have an economy that's not aligned, that we have something missing. This pure GDP driven has a wrong assumption of what's well-being. So more, greed. And that we really have the good understanding of well-being and happiness, which we all really want, into GNH-led GDP. The sustainability has 17 goals. Each of the pillars of the 16 goals is expanding the interlink of its ecosystems to relate. Only number 17 is left out and say, okay, guys, to be holistic, you weave it together. Well, how do we weave it? What's the purpose? The purpose is social transformation. From market transformation to social transformation, from social transformation will lead to cultural and civilization transformation. So social enterprise is a requirement and a need for business to awaken. The number 17 goal requires business to transform to be social enterprise and to collaborate to weave the 16 goals together. Why? Business drives the market economy. And business needs to awaken to not only their responsibility, but the possibility for long-term profit by taking this route. Unfortunately, a lot of business is not awakened, or they have some structural challenge, but doesn't mean they cannot. Say, for example, you have a big corporation, and they have layer after layer of shareholders. You have a fund manager, which got money from another fund manager, which get money from another fund manager called pension fund, who get the money from the people. Now they're very far away. It cannot. However, you have recent trend from the ESG and also for market response in responding to their PE that they're not realizing. Not only you have to comply with ESG, the market telling oil company and also not so healthy company, you need to do more to fully realize your PE. And therefore, the fund manager who has to sell the shares, the fund manager in the pension fund who also sells the shares to realize the profit, is having a wake-up call. Let's not maximize my profit because the enterprise value of the share price is important. So we can see a whole systemic change that is going on. But I always emphasize, family business has a role, special role. Why? They control 70% of GDP. And family business, in Asia is more, okay? Asia is more. Especially small, medium, micro enterprises. They are limbo, they are community interface, and they go down straight into community. And they have a special role. But we need to enable them. We need to empower them. We need to bring resources from the bigger business to support them into this capital chain, mostly impact capital, to facilitate them to become social enterprise. While it is very important for the bigger family business controlled enterprise, including many listed companies that you know, and also for big corporation to also go through that transformation in this whole business chain of business, from one type of business, many shareholders business, all the way down to family controls business, to very micro business. Now everybody's doing business. I had a meeting with a little workshop with the art community, and they said, well, we're not business. I said, you are. Do you sell your work? Yeah, we got to eat. I said, the whole economy is made up by all of us. Every one of us is making economy because economic activities are just activities to meet our desire. And we need to eat. That's a very prime desire. So we must realize our role of all of us, including the guy taking the camera. We are making economy. That is awakening. That is redefining ourselves. We have a big task, or we disappear because it's so urgent. And I think many would know that forget about 1.5, forget about 2, maybe 2.5, but likely to be 3. And you know already that at 3, you cannot imagine you will have nothing to eat in Hong Kong for sure. Because climate change is so severe, I suggest you to migrate to Siberia because they're the winner of climate change. Okay? So people are not aware. So education is a way to help people. And who's going to educate the marketing people? Because this is not a market economy that we have. It's called a marketing economy. The marketing economy dominates education. I think all of you use social media, right? Now, really use social media because you're not aware social media is using you. Okay? Be careful. And it's education. But if you know how to use social media, you got the best ideas around. And if we use social media collectively, it's likely if we organize ourselves, social media cannot use. Social media is isolate and conquer. But we use it together, we can use social media. This is one dimension that we can do. So, association of well-being economy is first make us understand that we are making economy, that collectively we need to work together to create economy. So we open to everybody, but particularly we want business enterprise to transform. Because there's a theory of change that I created, one that is based on Eastern wisdom change theory. I know there's a lot of Chinese here. We have the best change theory called Yi Jing. We have the best systemic system called the Great Learning, 大学. And we have all the wisdom of the Chinese in there. And this is Hong Kong, China, right? So we should contribute to the world by contributing our wisdom in this part of the world to bring into this. Now, Hong Kong is international. Almost everybody I know in Hong Kong can speak English. It's not true in China, all right? Even they speak the English, you need to listen carefully, all right? So in Hong Kong, we have a special role for distributing East-West Bridge and actually participate in the world with our wisdom, with our methodology, and with our model. So, Association of Well-Being Economy is where entrepreneurs transform themselves to be enterprise, social enterprise together, learning from each other. Now, I have a lot of social impact funds and projects, and I know a lot of family business have the same thing. And we can actually share and learn from each other so that this whole theory of change, which I'm publishing a book in English, but I have a better book in Chinese coming up next year. I'll call Impact Investing and the Holistic Approach to Life Flourishing. Add value to life. The whole life system is the universe. But we have a theory of change where the cosmos and the universe is aligned in how we see and act. Big topic, great conference, very important to have the conference in Hong Kong. Hong Kong has been and will be an East-West bridge. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sao, for your insight. Mr. Sao, please remain on stage. Yes, the middle seat is reserved for you.
But there's no, hop, hacker, welcome, you know.
Please give a big hand to Mr. Sao again. Yes.
On call, you know.
So next comes to our last section, which is a panel discussion. The topic is about the power of business in facilitating social entrepreneurship. So our panelists include Ms. Ododorian O'Mediron, Initiative Lead of Global Alliance for Social Entrepreneurship at the World Economic Forum, and also Mr. Leung Chang, Chief Strategy Officer of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. So we're also honored to have the discussion moderated by Ms. Dorothy Lam, co-founder and the chief catalyst of Dream Impact. Let's invite them on stage. And the stage is yours, Dorothy.
Wow, what an engaging afternoon. I love the energy that Fred always brings to the floor. Is Doyen joining us online? Yes, great. So I think this is a great chance to open the symposium from local representative of Mr. Zhang Leung, who's representing the Hong Kong Monetary Association today, and the Chief Strategy Officer of the Exchange Fund, looking over $4 trillion for Hong Kong. This is but really representing our local perspective to, I think, Chairman Zhao, who's looking over regionally in Singapore and Hong Kong, building out our well-being economy, to Doyen representing from World Economic Forum, what are the other international cases that can empower business and social entrepreneurship. Just want to start with a reaction to Fred's sharing. How do we not only think the power of business influencing social entrepreneurship, but we can flip it around. Actually, social entrepreneurship has this power to influence business that we can really change how we operate. To start, maybe I'll give the time to Doyen and to Zhanglan to share maybe 2 minutes each, maybe some reactions, thoughts from what Fred has shared and the keynotes, yeah. And also Francois on the video as well. Yes, please. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Thank you. So first of all, thank you for having me. I mainly represent myself. So first of all, I think Mr. Charles said it very well. Particularly, I think the reference to 大学, so the classic 大学之道在明明德，在亲民，在止于至善. So basically, what it meant is, the way of wisdom that we learned is to really, understand the virtuals. And then try to educate also other people, bring them all along. And then we only stop when you get to perfection. It very much, I think, when we even talk about I think Mr. Zhao talked about the blurring line between business and social enterprise. I think for both ends, this kind of virtual education, bring everyone along, and then you only stop when you get to the best point. I think those all applied, whether you go from this direction to that direction or the other way around. I think he also talked a little bit about the drivers, right? The internal drivers. Of course, Mr. Zhao, he mainly talked about the good drivers, so like the social and creativity. But he also actually mentioned greed and fear. So I guess, to us, it's really how do we then balance these human nature drivers from internal, and then how we encourage the growth of the better side, and then really try to manage, the worse side, if you will. And then also, I think he mentioned, which I think also is very, very important to all of us here, is all the external environment, right? So these are the technologies, these are the sustainability challenge, and also globalization. He mentioned probably now more like regional realignment or fragmentation, globalization plus, etc. But I think these are also very critical for either businesses or social enterprise when we think about how social issues may evolve given the external environment. So I think it's great. So I'll conclude by again saying, we can always learn from the classic, and having the virtual, educate, bring people along, don't just go alone, and then we only stop when we get there.
Thank you. Really becoming the bridge between the East and West, right? We have our wisdom to put into our financial strategy and business corporate strategy as well. What about Doyen? Any response from you as you also lead the whole initiative for social entrepreneurship at World Economic Forum?
Thank you, Dorothy. Good day, everyone. My name is Doyen, and I join you from the World Economic Forum and Schwab Foundation's offices here in Geneva. While I regret that I'm not able to be there with you in person, I'm grateful for this opportunity presented by technology to join you virtually. I'm also glad for the privilege to deliver this response to Dr. Bonici's and Chairman Charles' insightful and inspiring keynote speeches. I will start by responding to Dr. Bonici's reflections on the evolution and achievement of social entrepreneurship, which highlights a powerful journey of innovation, collaboration, and impact, one which the Schwab Foundation and the World Economic Forum has been a part of for over 25 years. We can all agree that the growth of the social enterprise sector from its early stages to becoming a global economic force is nothing short of remarkable. The statistics shared, 10 million social enterprises generating $2 trillion annually and creating 200 million jobs, demonstrates the tangible and transformative role these organizations play across the world, including in Nigeria, where I'm from. It's especially heartening and commendable to note the gender parity within the sector, with 50% led by women, a stark contrast to traditional business structures. Dr. Bonici highlighted some exemplary social enterprises such as the Shenzhen Power Solutions and Amazon Sacred Heart Waters, illustrating how social entrepreneurs address critical challenges such as energy access and biodiversity conservation. And they truly embody the stakeholder economy model. And part of the work we do here is to bring together the ecosystem, because we recognize the pivotal role that governments, businesses, and global institutions play in supporting and scaling social innovation. Initiatives such as the G20 for Impact Coalition and frameworks such as the Corporate Social Innovation Compass demonstrate how these can amplify the work of social enterprises. However, as Dr. Bonici mentioned, challenges persist, but I really like how Chairman Shao reminds us that challenges are needed for evolution. They drive us from market transformation to social transformation and to a wider scale transformation of civilization. So while we face challenges such as climate change, geopolitical tensions, and digital inequities, which especially threaten least vulnerable communities, we can derive a lot of hope from social enterprises and social entrepreneurs who are working in these communities. They are at the forefront of systemic solutions, and their contributions do need stronger institutional support through policy, funding, and partnerships. Similarly, at the Schwab Foundation, we believe in the power of social innovators. We see them as a research and development lab for businesses. And I was really heartened to hear and agree with Chairman Charles' belief that social enterprises can change the way businesses operate. This is why, events such as the Hong Kong Social Enterprise Summit are so critical. They provide a space for stakeholders to come together, share insights, and collaborate on strategies to scale social innovation. As Chairman Chow reminded us, we have much to learn from each other, and we also all individually have important roles to play in creating an economy that is truly stakeholder-driven and which considers, social impact metrics. So to conclude, from both keynote speeches, the call to action is clear. We must continue to advocate for the recognition and integration of social enterprises as essential partners in driving sustainable and inclusive economic transformations. As Chairman Charles stated, we must awaken businesses to the possibilities beyond PE calls and fund management as usual. Whether through advancing policy, mobilizing private sector investment, or harnessing technology like AI for social impact, our collective efforts, including the dialogues and partnerships formed here at this summit, are truly critical. I will end by joining Dr. Bonici and Chairman Chow to encourage us to carry forward the momentum generated through this event and strive to empower social innovators in creating a future that is inclusive, equitable, and sustainable for all. Thank you. Back to you, Dorothy.
Thank you, Derwin. I think to just get a sense of the room, maybe who's in the audience so we can connect with the audience as well. So maybe get a raise of a hand who are in the nonprofit sector. Nonprofits in the room. Cool. Yes. MA. What about corporations, corporate representatives from for-profit companies? Yes. And research think tanks. Oh, a few people as well. So we have a good balance of social enterprises. Everybody is a social enterprise in the room? Yeah, great. So I think we have a good balance between the nonprofit and the for-profit sector. I think we've been dabbling with ESG versus CSR, and we've advocated to move from CSR into ESG. But since I think the last year, maybe many of our businesses have been affected, do you see companies reverting back to CSR or ESG and sustainability is the first thing they cut? Have you observed similar experiences in the commercial sector?
I think I forgot which wise man said that, but if you look for 1 year, sometimes it's hard to, or it's very easy to be swayed by the short-term volatility or fluctuations. But if you look at a 5-10 years horizon, things could look very, very different. So one example I will give is 10 years ago, I was an operating partner with a prominent private equity firm. So at that time, I tried to talk to my head office in Boston, and I said, well, we should be thinking about sustainability. So at that time, of course, people said, Leon, good thought, but think about, money on money return first. Think about IRR first. But today, you went back to the same firm, and not just the same firm, but the whole industry. They all have a team of people looking at sustainability. They all look at their portfolio companies and say, are they Paris aligned? Are we using science-based? Are we deploying different methodologies to drive cost efficiency, but then also achieving sustainability? So again, 10 years ago, I was very frustrated at that year. Part of the reason why I left also the firm. But looking back, 10 years, I think things can really progress.
First of all, a correction. I'm not Singaporean. Over there, they call me the honky. So you have to kind of take that off. Then I'm going to respond on this. There's one thing that doesn't stop, is evolution. Everything changed, but the one that doesn't change is evolution. So you can see the evolution of CSR, yes. The reality today is regulation is coming in. You have no choice. And second thing is, ESG and impact investment is walking with two legs. You don't hop around with ESG. One is do less harm, one is do more good. So they cannot just hop with one leg. Now there's a lot of challenge when the ESG movement, I don't know, 60, 80, 90 stock exchange sign up, and they say, well, but I need to localize our situation. But today, I have yet to see anyone responding with a proposal. So I'm working with Singapore National University Business School with my new theory of change to create a proposal response from Singapore. I think Hong Kong should do the same.
Thank you. And Dorian, what do you think from a
Thanks,
global
Dorothy.
perspective? Yeah.
Sure. Dr. Bonici mentioned in his keynote speech the Rise Ahead Pledge, which was launched at Davos earlier this year in January, which really mobilizes private sector commitment in a tangible way for social innovation and social entrepreneurs. As he mentioned, from inception, we had, I think in January, about 12, 13 companies signed. And we've doubled that with many more in the pipeline, which will be announced in the upcoming Davos in January 2025. So what we're seeing, at least from this perspective, and they're global companies from all across the world, from different regions in terms of income level. And what we're seeing is not a reversion back to traditional philanthropy or CSR because of ESG targets, but they're deepening their commitment through strategic integration, especially of social innovation principles. So we mentioned companies such as AXA, Nike, EssilorLuxottica, who are redesigning their business models, right? And they're turning social impact into a growth driver rather than a separate initiative. And for instance, I lead part of our workstream on climate adaptation. And here I see a growing emphasis on partnerships with social innovators and ecosystem players to address systemic challenges collectively. So for what we're seeing, to borrow Chairman Charles' word, is an evolution, right? Rather than a reversion by these corporate actors. And yeah.
I do think also the time perspective from Leon is very important, that maybe many of the SMEs or smaller enterprises see that this is a huge drop in business, and oh, people are cutting ESG budgets. Oh, what should we do? But actually, on the longer curve, it actually even ESG is rising. So for us, that we're really passionate in doing impact and ESG. These are also just words that we label on the impact work that we do. But if we see it on a longer term horizon, we have faith that this is still going to be an integral part of for business. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can I supplement? The way I understand it, unlike the Chairman Charles' two legs, so I think of it as a flooring and a ceiling. Right? So I think the flooring is a regulatory flooring. So of course, sometimes it goes steeper, sometimes it goes faster, slower, but I think it's undeniable, particularly when it comes to climate change and ESG. Europe may be a little bit too much. US, who knows, maybe backing down. Rest of the world probably have their own pace. But I think the general direction is that we, as a human race, we start to recognize carbon pricing. We recognize that everything we do leave a footprint more and more, right? So that gradually will be reflected in a set of more sophisticated regulations. So that's the trend. Now, when the flooring is rising, you always see people playing different ways to survive. So some companies would be saying, if I would be just the last to follow, to comply with regulation, so I try to squeeze every single dollar out of it. Now, usually, given reasonable time, a lot of these companies will fail. That's what I believe anyway. But the companies who have an aspiration ceiling, who always go even faster than regulation, quicker, and try to be more proactive, I think those are the survivors at the end of the day, and the winners probably, because they define, how regulation in a way also should be moving. They tell you, I can do this while I maintain my profitability. I continue to deliver, a huge impact. So by doing so, a lot of the other companies who are not matching the kind of standard will eventually lose out. So that's how I sort of kind of look at the world and say how businesses or social enterprises, how we work with government, also how we work with each other or how we work with consumers to then basically carry more and more people towards the aspirational ceiling instead of staying at or even below the regulatory flooring.
Absolutely agree. But you need somebody to set the bar. Let me use Singapore, then all I see on the ground. So Singapore is a great supporter of well-being, is a great supporter of sustainability. Singapore has its own shipping company that they own. And they're pushing in the Singapore MPA, the Maritime Promotion Administration, on sustainable shipping. They want to go faster. But the industry response generally in private sector is, let's play with IMO. Let's agree and slow them down because there's a conflict of interest. So we see in every sector, the business, because of fear, they don't want to collaborate to create. But eventually what will happen is the industry don't collaborate, then they'll snap regulation that's not practical, the industry has to comply. They can blame bloody murder, but it's too late. So the best thing, and I'm promoting industry, is to co-create a program together and not to play games and resist. And there are countries like Singapore who's driving agenda on the national level. And I think Hong Kong is trying to do that. And Hong Kong should collaborate with Singapore to do that in IMO together, in my view. Now, just to say about earlier, about getting the power of partnership, we're partnering with World Economic, Climate and Nature Gaia program to run a certain program. We are partnering with Innovation Hub, so I probably see you in Davos with the Social Innovation Hub collaboration. I don't know if you're aware it's going on, which is the Swap Foundation. And so I think Hong Kong should really reach out. We're bringing more than a dozen people down there to advance our agenda, and I will also be launching my impact investing book to get an Asian paradigm, a theory of change, a systemic innovation, a management model, and potential strategy. And it talks about the China government doing impact investing. Bridging between East and West is our role in Hong Kong. So I highly recommend to try to make it there. It's a bit more expensive because everything's expensive in Davos, during Davos. Otherwise, you can go skiing afterwards. It's very cheap. And I think number 17 is the way to go. Thank you.
You want me to respond? Sure. First of all, I think let's not try to get to sort of the two-city competition here. But
I love the collaboration idea. I was like, that's amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And which I think in different sectors, we do collaborate a lot. So I'm now in the Exchange Fund Investment Office, which is Hong Kong's reserve management. So our counterpart would be the Temasek, GIC, and MAS of the world in Singapore. We actually always talk to each other, and we share knowledge on sort of how we conduct investments, and then how we also promote sustainability agendas together. So we always share whatever we learn, we share, they learn, they share. You know, I think Hong Kong, in a sense, especially when it comes to, if I may just comment on the part of asset owners. So deploying capital, how capital can support a business in terms of a just transition in Asia. I think particularly in Asia, because you know, if we want the world to come to a net zero, without Asia, it won't happen. So a lot of the capital actually need to happen or need to be channeled towards Asian investments to make that happen. So to us, Hong Kong, actually, we are 1/3 of the Asian volume in terms of issuing green bonds. So we're actually very, very big in terms of doing green bonds to support a lot of these transitions in Asia. And then even also when it comes to sort of deployment of equity money, so the capital, Chairman Chow mentioned, you know, from asset owner to asset managers to then the companies. But in that sense, for example, for Exchange Fund, for example, more than already 10% of our investment are in sustainable investment. Which in that sense, you know, compared to any of the asset owners, large-scale asset owners globally, we're actually very, very advanced. And as one of the, you know, central banks, very, very few central banks in the world, we actually announced to the world explicitly and say we want to get to our investment portfolio carbon net zero by 2050. And we want to reduce our carbon emission, or weighted average carbon intensity, from 2017 as the starting point. We want to reduce it to by 67% by the time of 2030 as an interim target. So we're, you know, Hong Kong is actually very, very aggressive, and we're probably the first city in Asia that already agreed to adopt ISSB as a measurement and reporting standard. So the Hong Kong Exchange will do that. And we already signed up to it. So I think all cities, particularly Singapore and Hong Kong in Asia, we are kind of playing, you know, a leading role. And I definitely agree we should work together on a lot of those taxonomies, agendas, deploying capitals, for sure.
Great. Oh, yeah. I have a segue into. I love Fred's point on GNH-led GDP. I think often we hear about, GDP versus GNH, and it's kind of this new index, but kind of how can we create profit and GDP from the net national happiness index, right? And so I want to ask a question on the interplay between environmental and social impact. I think often we have the carbon pricing and then we have the GNH, but they seem to be so separate. maybe would you guys address from a corporate perspective and from an impact investment perspective, how can we see a holistic world where the environmental and the social impact is looped with a beautiful governance structure, right? Yeah, the interplay between environmental and social. Maybe Do-Yin, from your perspective, any case studies or around the world that has a good companies that are addressing both environmental and social issues, yeah.
Thanks, Dorothy. So no case studies come to mind as I'm talking, but as I'm talking, if something comes to mind, I'll definitely share it. But what I want to start with actually is, in terms of being future forward or future facing, right? We have Gen Zs entering the workforce who are the future consumers, future, purchasers of goods and services. And this, from what we've observed in discussion with some of our corporate partners, they have placed such a huge emphasis, number one, on their happiness, right? On, the social, on the social aspects of their lives, and two, on the environment, right? On being environmentally conscious, right? That the companies, the products, the goods, the services that they access are sustainable and environmentally conscious. So from that aspect, if we're thinking, future forward or future facing, they are inextricably linked. From our engagement or from the case studies we've had with some of these companies, we see that, the ecosystem now, that's social innovators, that's, the corporate and that's government need to come together to make sure that these are intertwined. For instance, I lead our work on AI. And while we're looking at the impact of AI for good, there's been a lot of pushback, right? Despite the benefits that come with AI, there's been a lot of pushback in terms of the environmental footprint, right, of this technology. So we see it from this perspective as something that is inextricably linked. And if we hope to satisfy or capture the future generations, right, it's something that all actors across the entire ecosystem need to address, right, and need to cover. Thank you.
First of all, the truth of the matter is collaboration is a new evolution theory. Competition is what we perceive as a challenge. But evolution biology says collaboration with the environment is the best way to sustain and evolve. But humans, because of our perception, use a competitive strategy. That is not going to be the new era. The awakening will be there is competition in our observation that creates a challenge, but collaboration strategy is the way forward. Now, as far as overcoming the fear, I learned something from playing golf. Yes. Every time when there's one side is sand, on the side of water, of course, I'm more worried about going in the water. You can play a few shots, it goes into the water. Then I found out in neuropsychology, your mind doesn't know yes or no, good or bad. That's where your mind goes, that's where the ball goes. And so, what is that? Why am I paying attention to water? Because I have fear of getting in the water. So one thing we have to learn is just do it and keep focusing and doing it, and don't let fear get the best of us. Put number 17, collaboration strategy, in play, because otherwise competition will create fear instead of challenge, and then your attention goes to competition and you go into the water. That is some wisdom that I found playing golf. And I use it in my life now to share with you. I think we just have to do it, but not Nike style, not a tick, but just do it.
No wonder my ball always goes into the water. Perhaps I will give a couple of examples. So one example is one of our investments. So through a general partner, the investment. So what they did was they invested into a power transition. So this is a island they used to bring in fossil fuels to support the local tourist industry. So basically, the company invested in replacing oil by solar panel, clean energy. But then what they do is they also then connect those clean energies, not just servicing the tourist industry, but then connect them with the local community as well. So for the tourist industry, basically you have long-term contracts, and solar panel these days, actually the unit cost can be very low. So financially, it makes a lot of sense as a financial investment. But because of the scale that they put in, they're able to, in fact, also provide local community with very affordable power as well. So, you can indeed do good and do well. So this particular investment, our GP already exited, and they exited with actually very good financial return as well. So that's one example. Now, the other example is, this one I don't think is our investment, but I heard it from, one of our investment partners. In fact, yesterday. So what the example he quoted was, we all have nurse shortage these days, practically in all major cities. And then when you look at the nurse work, and given aging society, the aging population, a lot of the work actually is about reminding the patient to do certain things, communicating, or have empathy, listening, to patients. So it's not so much very, very specialized nursing skills. Right? You don't need to, when it comes to administer medicine, of course, you want the real person. But a lot of the work that I mentioned, it can actually be replaced by AI, right? So this company, basically, they developed, an AI module to then serve a lot of the service requirement on that category. So what my friend told me was the cost for them to develop this whole thing, when you bring down to a per head cost, I forgot, it's 90 cents or $9 per hour. But they can charge $90 because nurse would be costing you, over 200 or 100 and some dollars, plus all the other on costs together. So to them, again, it is a social benefit because it's solving a labor shortage or nurse shortage issue in certain areas. But in the meantime, financially, it can be a very, very good investment. So again, I think these are not easy. Nobody said doing business is easy. But in a very pragmatical way, I think if you look hard, you will be able to find more and more of these interesting opportunities that may serve multiple purposes.
Right. You have to look for these opportunities, and where I think local communities can always benefit from economic development and investments. So in the spirit of just do it, I'm going to ask these personal questions to both Leung and Fred. Maybe we'll start with Fred, also from your own journey as a fourth generation in your family in the huge shipping industry. What gave you the courage and the inspiration to really take the family on this path of revitalizing the culture, the wisdom of the Chinese lineage, and also in impact investing, where really bringing your worldview of the environmental, social, or even spiritual perspectives? Yeah.
Number one, courage is not real. Courage is a response to our fear. The more you want courage, just as I said, the more you get into the water. So just do it, right? Go where you want. For us, the structural change, too. We have 3 nonprofit in the corporate and 3 nonprofit in the family. The 3 non-corporate office is number 1, Octave Institute. It's on long-term research on individual and collective transformation and the organization structure they needed for transformation. they do social projects. We have a Restore Nature Foundation that look at restoration and projects in Indonesia, trying to find business model solution to the palm oil industry, and understanding that carbon credit is not easy to develop. You need to create environment, social project, and more complex business model to release palm, and also ocean. These are very important because we set limitation in our mind. Because the system is just like shipping against. The credit cannot come easily because the power business is against it. And they have big lobby in the government. So understanding we need to find ways to not rely on carbon credit, but carbon credit is an additional, which means that in restoring the trees, we have the other model of farming that is intercropping, social project to make the business model work, right? And number 17, which I said. So we have 3, and social environmental is not separable in the solution. Eventually, all social transformation, the way we live in our culture, will be catered towards environmental orientation, not separable.
Thank you. I think also the research component, and then the corporate, the doing the business, and then the investment, right? The 3 cycles. But I think in a wide around way of answering the courage question is just do it, right? If you're in a family business, you want to influence your family. If you have a clarity of vision, you know what you want to do. Why not propose it to the family? Maybe they'll say yes. And then to Liang, you know, I think you've had an interesting career of also being in, you know, leading the world's 5th largest charity in the world, which is the Hong Kong Jockey Club. And it's done so much impact work. I'm sure all of our impact partners in Hong Kong have benefited from the grants and the funding. So how has that personal transition been, you know, moving into HKMA and bringing that impact DNA into Hong Kong's monetary system? Yeah.
It's obviously a very different environment. So I used to run the Hong Kong Jockey Club Charities Trust. You know, I think it was a philanthropic effort. It's very much close to the front line. I really enjoy talking to a lot of you at the time, thinking about social issues, coming up with projects. Now, today I work in HKMA, which obviously we operate on a fairly large pool of capital. And through deployment of the capital, you can also, you know, indirectly, I would say, because at the end of the day, it is a reserve management. So we owe the Hong Kong people this responsibility to keep it safe, keep it liquid, and to deliver a long-term financial return. But my role is more so to also think about sustainable investment in that sense, in a very practical way. Right, so the way we conduct sustainable investment is to say that we do it very practically, because only when you do it practically, you can do it a much sort of larger scale. So it's not to demonstrate a point, to just say, oh, we have done it, right? But to say, this is actually something viable. And while you do that, while you look at your climate impact, you can still meet, you know, all the criteria that's set out in a reserve management. So I think, to me, there's a lot of learning. So to begin with, I'm just a person with a lot of curiosities. And therefore, you know, I moved from private sector to started up my own social enterprise, then to go in philanthropy, and now, you know, in a completely different kind of environment, managing reserve. So that's very satisfying intellectually, because every day I feel very insecure, a lot of fear, you know, not sure what I'm saying is actually the thing. But actually that's in a way that gets me excited in a sense. And then I think also very importantly, I do feel like working with the team, we are working, you know, not on sort of just the personal gain. It is a job that has a public angle to it. It is a job that we all feel like, you know, through properly and hopefully professionally doing this, we can deliver a positive impact to the society.
Thank you. That gives us a lot of inspiration for people. If you want to switch careers, just switch with a lot of curiosity.
And just do it.
Just do it. Great. Well, we have to wrap up, but we have maybe 5 minutes for Q&A from anyone from the floor. This is precious time, so raise your hand quickly if anyone has a question for Do-Yin, Fred, and Leung. Oh, Alex, yes. You want with the mic?
Thank you so much for all the panelists, and you really give us a very insightful and remarks, and you deserve a big applause, because a few days ago we still talk about the future of social enterprise and how the government also swelled about it. But I think my question is related to, yes, the paradigm shift must be in place, and then everyone should get involved. But out of this kind of evolutions, how would different panelists will look into ideally the destination, and now where we begin with, how would be the balance from family perspective? I think Chairman Chow, you share a little bit about what you have done, and from a national perspective and also a global perspective, how we should strike the balance throughout all this journey of conflicts and then also the paradigm shift. Thank you.
Or maybe Fred can start.
All right, throw away the word balance and replace the word with integration, because collaboration is an integration process. Balance is a competitive attitude, right? So be aware and mindful what that does to you when you use different words, because it changes your mindset and paradigm shift. So when you think about that, change the balance. I want to add that I'm feeling very comforted to know the money is taken care by somebody who's mindful, competent, and very completely knowing all the way from investment to nonprofit to social enterprise. So I would like to give applause to our best monetary policy leaders. Now, leadership is very important, because in this transformation, the brilliant ones lead the way. When the brilliant ones work together, that is power. That is collective power. That is integration. And those that are a little bit more fear will be empowered to follow those brilliant ones that lead the way. Thank you.
Wow, throw away balance.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think a balance is perhaps too perfect a way, especially in these kind of days and environment. Perhaps it's more like a dynamic balance. So, these factors are always changing. So I would say don't look for the perfect balance, then you start something or you try something. You start something and then you try to find the balance. And it will change as well. So I totally agree, leadership, commitment, these are some of the elements, particularly when you're in social enterprise, very, very high fail rate kind of environment. You want to be agile. You want to try out things. You want to be able to remodel, reprototype very, very quickly to find that rebalance.
I think the word's called flow.
Yes, and Do-Yin, any remarks on balance or flow, integration?
I think with Chairman Chow and Mr. Chung have said it all. But I think the layer I'd like to add is just, I'll call it parallelism, right? So while we're in this ecosystem, there's some collaboration going on with social entrepreneurs, some advocacy, some policy, same thing with government, same thing with private sector. And this is kind of what we do here at the Schwab Foundation. So we have work streams dedicated to emerging themes and initiatives which are pertinent to the social economic sector, which are moving the needle in every way we can, right, to ensure this transition. In the same vein, we also have a work stream dedicated to the public sector, right, to data, to policy, working in parallel with the emerging themes. And then in the same vein, we have a parallel stream that focuses on the private sector and how to bring them on board, how to collaborate more with them, speaking to SDG 17, how to really also get them to move the needle. So I think working in parallel, we can get to, we may not get to the destination. It might not be an immediate paradigm shift, but working in parallel, we can get all the actors across the ecosystem to get there eventually. Thank you.
Thank you, and that's time. So working in parallel, just do it and lead with curiosity. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Let's give a big hand to all our guests for their valuable sharing. And today's section has come to the end, and thank you all again joining us this afternoon. And your feedback is so important to us. So on the screen, we will have a QR code. Please fill in the feedback form for us. And when you finish, please show us the complete page on the entrance, and a gift will be ready for you. So for a participant who ran the headset, please return it to the SI counter. So also the International Symposium of Day 2 will be held tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the same room here, meeting room S221 to 223. So see you tomorrow. And also for those who registered for the dinner tonight, our event helper at the entrance are ready to take you to the venue at 6:30 and 6:40 p.m. 咁今晚咧報咗名去晚宴嘅朋友仔咧，可以喺6點半同6點40分咧，去到我哋嘅門口入口嗰度咧，會有工作人員帶你去到晚宴嘅場地嘅。咁再次多謝咁多位參加今日嘅國際研討會。咁你哋嘅意見對我哋嚟講係好重要㗎。咁我哋熒幕上咧會有個 QR code 咧，就係俾大家去填翻一個問卷。咁完成問卷咧，去到門口，我哋會有一份精美嘅禮物咧，就俾翻你㗎。嗱，如果咧啱啱你哋係有借用即時傳譯耳機嘅朋友仔咧，可以將你哋嘅耳機去還翻佢。咁聽日嘅國際研討會會喺聽日朝早嘅10點喺會展會議室，即係呢度 S221至223號嘅房去舉行㗎啦。多謝晒咁多位嘅參與，咁我哋聽日見，拜拜。